If you are not developing leaders, then I'm here to tell you that you are not actually a leader. I'm going to give you 4 development tips today that will walk you through why that piece is so important to your career and the trajectory of where you are going with your mission. Leadership doesn't really happen by osmosis, so you can't just be stood next to somebody and they actually get the best of you. And leadership doesn't happen if someone's shadowing you. You actually have to go through a process of developing those leaders. And I'm going to help you today with these 4 simple tips. That's right. If we are not developing leaders, we are not in the practice of leadership. We are not even leaders ourselves. How do I know this? Well, if I look back at my career and take a look at the steps I took along the way, then I can tell you I failed miserably when it came to leadership. And the reason why is because I went about it all wrong. I actually thought that if I couldn't get somebody to do what I wanted them to do for me, then I would just play the way of, can I get them to like me? And if they like me enough, then perhaps I could lean in one day and say, hey, you know this? I know you like me, so it's going to be safe for me to say this and actually tell you the truth. But the problem is when you're playing that game and you're trying to get people to like you, you don't tell the truth until it's too late. And I think what people experience and what people want from you as a leader is for you to tell the truth, to get the issues and the challenges of the day and the problems out in the open and have an adult conversation about actually solving them. Stay tuned. I'm going to talk you through 4 leadership development tips right now. There are 4 leadership development tips, and here is the first one for you right now. It is value other people first. How do you value other people first? Because we've always been taught to be competitive and to dominate and to have rivals. And so we're kind of in that obedient worker system where we were fighting with our siblings at home if we were fortunate to have that environment. But typically we would fight with our parents if we didn't fight with our siblings. And then we went into school and we would fight with the other school children. And there would be this competitive hierarchy that was graded. And all of this is tuned to make you more obedient, but also to make you more competitive, that the one who gets their elbows out is going to climb to the top the fastest. That's not what we want when we're valuing other people first. So how do you value somebody first? Well, the first thing you need to do is to find time for them. And most people experience leadership and management with people in their companies, like with their boss and their manager, where they don't even get time. There's no consistent one-on-one time. There's no consistent team meeting. There's no consistent communication. And that's because those people are overwhelmed and they clearly aren't thinking about you first. So if you want to develop leaders, what I recommend is you give those leaders time. That's right. There's too much emphasis on organizations making a decision on someone before they've given them the chance to upgrade their skills and bring the right attitude into the conversation. So by giving them more time, you can develop their leadership skills, and that's going to work really well. But it doesn't end there, because one thing to have time. So I talked about one-to-one meetings or group settings, team meetings. In those sessions, you as the leader, it is incumbent upon you to be present. That's right. You have to be present in the room and pay your undivided attention to those people when you're giving them time. And I saw countless experiences of this where you'd be in a room with the C-suite owner or the president or the senior vice president, and they're just sitting on their phone doing emails and texts. And, candidly, some of them were surfing the internet and taking a look at what was not in the room. Now, that's not leadership. That's not demonstration of leadership, that their presence is not there, right? They might as well be out of the room at that point. So this is vital for you to understand that your presence matters. So consistency of giving people time, but then the consistency of actually paying attention to what's happening. And I've given you examples before about when people have given me feedback and said, I feel listened to, but I don't feel heard. That's a really good feedback item for me about presence and am I paying attention, rather than thinking about what's the next thing I'm going to say. I want to give clarification questions and confirm with the individual, this is what I'm hearing you say. Are we on the same page? That is presence. That is giving people your undivided attention and not thinking about what's best for you next. Next, I would like you to think about serve someone. The second development leadership tip I'm going to give to you today to develop leaders is to start to operate from a servant leadership perspective. And what does that mean? Well, yes, you need to put people first, but you also need to do the thing. What is the thing? Well, the thing is the item, the task, the activity that isn't getting done but everybody knows it needs to get done. And that might be something that could be in your home. You could do this leadership task at home. Let's say, the dishes need to be washed. Do the thing. That is servant leadership. Wash the dishes for everybody else's benefit. It's a really good example. What can you do on behalf of your team in your professional setting that is just not getting done? You need to solve that problem, get that task done. There's things that sit and they fester and nobody's taking care of them. And it's kind of like a little bit of trash has been left. And that's another way you can demonstrate leadership. Wherever you live in your local community, you could go to the playground, to the park areas, take a bag with you and a rubber glove, or a plastic glove, not a rubber glove, a plastic glove, and pick up trash. That is servant leadership, where you're serving your community by picking up the trash that's been left there and just clearing the place up. You got to live there, so you might as well make sure it looks good, right? This is the same way. So whether it's in the home, whether it's in your community, or whether it's in your workplace, serving someone is how you develop leaders. You leave the imprint, if you like. It shows them what the standard is. So when you're acting with meaning, you're actually doing something that is meaningful to the team, you're going to really notice that they change their standards too, and they'll start to serve someone as well. So these two things go in common. You've kind of got this value people first piece going on, but when you're serving someone and you're really in that mind of service, you're doing things that need to be done that are getting stuck. They're getting held up. And I gave you the examples. There's trash on the floor, there's dishes in the home, but at work, it could just be a project item. It could be a phone call to a client. It could be a meeting that hasn't happened yet. It could be a conversation that's happened. And we're always one conversation, one meeting, one moment away from unblocking everything that needs to be done inside the workplace. Hey, this is James. I'm jumping in here in the middle of the video. I know you want to get back to the leadership development tips, but I do want to talk to you. If you're watching this video and you've got to this point, it's probably a good chance that we should get to know each other. I would love for you to go down in the description. There is a link there where you can have an introductory call with me for 30 minutes. And whatever your problems, challenges, and issues are going on for you inside of your career or inside of your business or wherever it is, your workplace, I would be delighted to have a conversation to help you level up. So just drop down into the comments, click on the link, book yourself a time where we can speak, and I'll see you real soon. The third leadership development tip that I would like to share with you is to be intentional. Every single day, there should be a daily intention for you when you show up in your workplace. And I recommend there are no more than 3 daily intentions. That could be, I'm going to work with this person, I'm going to attend this meeting, and I'm going to get this task done. What I don't want you to do is have a super long list of to-do list, because you're just never going to get down to the end of that. And at the end of the day, your brain's keeping score and it's eroding your confidence by telling you you didn't get everything done. So that way you can't be worthy enough. So let's not do that. Let's set daily intention up from the beginning. But I want you to also think about, when you're setting your daily intentions or your intentional activity, how can you add value? And what that means is to bring something to every interaction, whether that's in a meeting, a one-to-one conversation, an email to a client, a conversation over the phone with a partner or a supplier. Are you bringing value to that conversation in a giving sense? Meaning you're not looking for transaction. There are times when you need to do a transaction. You've got to do customer agreements and contracts and so on. But what can you do to add value? This is a sign of leadership. This is a sign of how you develop leaders in the workplace. I want to expand on this a little bit and think about, how can you intentionally infuse value and influence other people? I think there's an ultimate influence model that you can borrow here. And I'm borrowing this, and it's kind of attributed really to the world of Growth Day and Brendan Burchard, if you know him. I think in that world, he talks about the ultimate influence model of, how do you get people to think about themselves? Great leaders, when developing leaders, get those leaders to think about their own behaviors, their own actions. So think about that first. When you've gone to that stage and you've got some appreciation and awareness from the individual that they know that their actions and behaviors matter, then you can teach them how to think about other people. When you've taught them how to think about other people, then teach them to think about the world around them, whether that's the company as a whole, whether that's the clients, whether that's the supply chain, whether that's the competitive environment, whatever that is. Get them to teach them to think bigger. Leaders can see right in front of them, so they can see real up close with some tactical stuff, but they can also see a strategic vision way out in the future. And so you want to be able to develop that by getting people to think about who they are, how they are with other people, and what they are like with the world around them. Now, when you've done that, you can go to the other side of this and start to document What are the growth items? Teach and influence people where they need to grow. So you can document with them a list of activities or tasks or behaviors that they can be working on that are going to grow themselves. Now, as the same model of influencing the world and getting them to think, you're also going to teach them how to grow other people. So you're going to get them to pay this forward. If you want to develop leaders, you need them to think to grow other people. So they're going to have to grow leadership elsewhere. So you get them, once they're growing themselves, they can then grow others. When they can grow others, guess what? They can grow everybody else in the world around them. And that goes back to, you can grow clients, you can grow the supply chain, you can think about partnerships, and a whole lot more. Be intentional. The fourth and final leadership development tip that I'm going to share with you in this video is to be consistent. And I can't think of any better way than for you to develop and demonstrate consistency than to set expectations with everybody inside of your organization. If you set expectations first, so it's clear what the aspirations are of the company, including you, clear what the strategy is, including you, and that people know where the vision is, then you can go to the next level with the expectation they have of you anyway. And that is that they have a clearly defined role with a clearly defined responsibility, and they know exactly what they can take control of without your permission. This is vital for you to develop those leaders, giving them autonomy, giving them the independence to go ahead and do the work. Now, I want to warn you, there are no shortcuts to leadership. So the development of these leaders and the development of your own leadership cannot be rushed in any way. You do need to invest the time. You do need to pay attention to the right things. You do need to be intentional every single day. And leadership evolves. It's a skill we can learn. That's the beauty of this, that we can learn the skill when we work on these four things. So that's a really vital part. But listen, when you're consistent, it typically means that you're demonstrating a lot of integrity. And I want to share you a quick story about Gandhi. You know, Mahatma Gandhi, very famous, Indian, educated in Britain, of course, but then went back to India, had his own conflicts with Britain as well. But there's this story where people would come to visit with Gandhi and he would talk to them. And there's a lady who brings her son up to meet with Gandhi. And she says, Gandhi, you know, my son, he won't stop eating candy, sweets, and the sugar is going to rot all his teeth and they're all going to fall out. You know, so we've waited in line today to get to the front to meet you. And so you can tell him that time to stop eating candy. And Gandhi then says to the lady, please come back next week and we'll talk again. So she sends the woman away and she sends the little boy away, and the boy's looking at the mother and the mother's perplexed. She doesn't know why she's got to come back next week. You know, she's going to queue up and come back and see Gandhi next week. So she makes her journey, her mini pilgrimage back to see Gandhi again the following week. And she's got her little boy there and she gets to the front of the line and she says, Gandhi, I don't know if you remember me, but we came last week and I told you that my son is eating lots of sweets and candies, and I'm very worried that it's going to rot his teeth and they're all going to fall out, and then we'll have other issues. And Gandhi looks at the lady and then he takes one look down at the son and he says to the son, stop eating candy. And the little boy looks up and says, okay. And the mum says, hey, I waited a whole week for you to tell him that. Why couldn't you tell him that last week? And Gandhi said, because I needed to give up candy first. This is a demonstration of leadership and integrity and being consistent, but standing in your own integrity. It's vital for you to understand that your say-do ratio must be what you say and what you think and you do must be as close as you possibly can. But every time that you are operating outside of that mode, so when you say things and you don't do them, you are out of integrity with yourself. And what that creates is inconsistency with the development of leaders inside your organization, but the way you are viewed. And so this is vital. I remember standing in the front of a presentation room one day. There were probably 200 people in the room, sat at round tables. And I'm on the, death by PowerPoint up at the front. And we're having a conversation about an image that's on a screen. I'd created this payments framework. And I remember the managing director saying, James, stop. I just need you to tell everybody what this means in your words, because he made the assessment that some of the information I was delivering from my mouth was inconsistent with the story that he'd heard prior, meaning I'd said something, but when I stood up in front of the audience, I was doing something different. And he reminded me, tell them like you told me. And that is great leadership. So I remember Jim, if you ever get to see this, Jim saying that to me. And I remember thinking, that's how you develop leaders, by holding them accountable, but also reminding them the importance of consistency. That's why I shared that little story with you. Those are the 4 leadership development tips. And I'm looking forward to seeing you very soon. Hey, James, jumping in at the end here. I want to make sure that you enjoyed that video. And if you did, I would be delighted if you come and join me in this next video right here. So when you get there, we're going to teach you some more tools, strategies, methodologies that are going to change the way that you operate inside of your career. I'll see you inside.